Hey there, Brian Goulet here at gouletpens.com, and I get asked all the time about fountain pen prices and if they're worth it, and can you compare this pen to that pen and so on. And I normally shy away from it, but today I'm just going to lean hard into it. So today we're going to take a look at 3 different pens, one that is $10, one that's $800, and one that's $2,800. We're going to start out with the inexpensive one, the Jinhao X750. This is a Chinese-made fountain pen. It's metal, it's fairly utilitarian, but it looks very pretty, very glittery, very kind of shiny. It's a great kind of intro-level pen for anybody getting into fountain pens. It has a stainless steel nib. It's available in medium nib only, so it's not a lot of options, but in terms of its writability, it's a pretty decent all-around performing pen, and it gets a lot of love in the pen community just because it's a fairly reliable writer for the price. It also has a number 6 size steel nib, and you can swap that out with a few other brands' nibs, which expands some of its utility. I don't actually know much about how this pen is made, but if I had to speculate, it would probably be something not much more elaborate than what my 6-year-old daughter would do with a bunch of glitter glue, because that's kind of what it looks like, but there's something very satisfying about that to the eye. And it doesn't come in any fancy packaging or anything. You basically just get the pen. So it's really the kind of thing that you might just buy for yourself and use, maybe give it to somebody else, give it to your kids, and you wouldn't really sweat it too much. All around, it's a really good value pen, but you know you're not getting a ton of bells and whistles with this. So if we want to take a step up from here, actually a rather big step, because we're going to go from $10 to $800, we have the Pilot Vanishing Point Rawdon Stripe. Now there's a couple different Rawdon versions of this pen, and the Vanishing Point itself is a model that is available in less expensive versions. This is kind of the more top of the line version for this particular pen. But the first thing you'll notice is that the pen comes in a box, which is something you might expect of a pen in this price range. The packaging is pretty clean, pretty straightforward. It's got this nice kind of lining in here, and the pen is just kind of nested neatly in here, and it comes with all the accoutrement that you might expect as far as cartridge and various such things. And the pen itself is a step up for sure. So this pen comes with an 18 karat gold nib, which is going to be a little bit springier than the steel nib. It's going to have a consistent flow and write very smoothly. It's also available in a variety of tip sizes, so you can get a variation in the line width that you would write with depending on the nib size that you have put into here. And they also make the nibs available as separate units, so you can change it out and mix up the utility of your pen. And it's a click retractable nib, which is something kind of unique to the Pilot Vanishing Point model. And again, this is the higher end version of it. So where other models might just be a painted version, this one uses a Rawdon technique, which is a Japanese technique that actually you inlay abalone shell, and then you use a urushi lacquer over top of it. And urushi is this specific type of lacquer that comes from a urushi tree. It's one of the hardest natural materials in the world, and it takes months for it to properly cure. It's a technique that was developed in Japan, and it is something that takes a lot of time to do. So part of what you're paying for is a lot of the labor in producing this. They have to cut and position every single individual piece of abalone shell in this very specific pattern, and that takes time. There's expense in the abalone shell, there's expense in the craftsmanship that these artisans use to develop their skills over years and years, and then producing the individual pens takes a while, and there's a lot involved in doing it, and that is part of why it immediately jumps up pretty significantly in price. So where do we go from here? That's already a pretty dang nice pen, and one outside of the realm of what probably most people would consider in their pen budgets. But we can go nicer, so let's do it. We have the Namiki Yukari Nightline Moonlight. Now, part of what you might be paying for is the name, because there's so much packed in there, but right off the bat, you can see it comes in a much larger box. The presentation itself is going to be part of the experience, and you open it up. It's got a nice little flap here so you can easily get to the real wood box that you get with this thing. It's a really nice wooden box. I'm a huge fan of wood myself, and I think it makes for a great presentation. It makes it so that if you want to display this thing or present it as a really high-end gift for somebody, it's going to be received quite well. You got all kinds of goodies in here. You have a card from the individual artist, because pens at this level, the artist actually designs it and signs their name when they are working on it, as well as a letter saying, hey, I hope you enjoy this rockin' pen, or something to that effect. You get some nice foam in here to protect it. It comes with a bottle of ink, and then the pen itself is nestled in this nice red velvet kind of crushed interior. And the pen itself is pretty darn awesome. It's not an incredibly large pen. Some of these pens can go up even from here, but this is one of the nicest full Rawdon pens that I've seen. And you see here the entire pen is covered in Rawdon, this abalone shell, as well as urushi lacquer. And essentially, a lot of what you're paying for is the additional material and the additional time that went into the artisan's craftsmanship when they were producing this pen. The shell, there's a lot of it. It's laid out in a kind of a specific pattern, but I know specifically that the Namiki artists that are doing this urushi work, they're placing these shells in more or less a similar position from pen to pen, but they do have some artistic liberty to change up the design a little bit from one pen to another. And because they're working with a natural shell, the actual individual shell pieces are going to be different on every single pen. So there's a lot of individuality that goes to it. And then of course down here on the bottom, the artist signs their specific name and characters down here, so you know that you're getting a pen made by the hands of that individual artist. So this pen also has a gold nib, larger gold nib than what's on the Vanishing point, and fits very comfortably in the hand, and it's made to write really well. Is it going to write significantly better than an $800 pen? No, there's going to be a law of diminishing returns. A pen can only write but so well. A lot of the increased price that you're paying for is the craftsmanship of the actual piece. But it's still a fantastic everyday writer. The nib is going to be springy, it's going to have good flow, and it's going to perform really, really well. And the last note about pens in this price range is these are not something that is mass produced. It might take 4 to 6 months to produce a pen of this caliber. And so it's going to be something that's extremely limited, which is going to add to the scarcity, which could also impact the price and availability of a pen like this. Now, no matter which one of these three that you consider, I personally think that they can be justified for different reasons for their given price points. I think the Jinhao is going to be a fantastic starter pen and kind of a good knockaround pen for anyone who wants to just get into fountain pens. I think the Vanishing Point is a fantastic everyday writer when you want a piece of art in your hands that you're not afraid to use functionally. And I think if you're getting more into the kind of collector grade pens, a real piece of artwork tied to an individual artist, that's what the Yukari Nightline Moonlight is going to do for you. I think they're all fantastic pens, and I really enjoyed showing them off to you here today. I would love to know which pen you think is the most worth it and why down in the comments below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this video if you like it, and if you want others, we got plenty of them. So be sure to check out what we have going on, and you can see all three of these at gouletpens.com. Thanks so much for watching, and right on.